Hey there. Well, while I was installing the switch for the NPP exhaust, I've also been working on these gauges. I got this from Autometer and the Aeroforce OBD2 and the AEM air fuel ratio gauge. What I'm doing now is I'm just wiring them up. There's a couple videos on how to do these A-pillars for the Gen 5. I will say it's difficult getting the old one off. The metal clip in there, it's got like a spring. The clip, once you snap it off, there's like a, it's hard to explain, it's like a spring clip. It's really hard to pull apart. And then you have to bring the clip, you have to unhook it and then bring it this way to actually get it off of the plastic piece. And the other end will stay on and then you'll reuse that. But the problem I had so far is finding a power supply that only comes on with the key. And there was a video of a guy, and he had one of these, which is an ATA circuit. So the yellow fuse there is just passed through to the actual clip portion. The red one is the fuse for the wire. And his was just coming out from behind here, and he says, well, I ran it from underneath the fuse, well, or underneath the relay. Well, that wasn't quite true. What he did was he ran it probably from this one. These two are power ports. Some people call them cigarette lighter, source, but of course they don't have those in cars anymore. So power source, these are only on when the key is on. So I decided I was going to use one of those, and that actually plugs in. Well, doing this with one hand is always fun. Pushes in just like that. And this lead comes out, and there is our switched 12-volt source with its own dedicated 10-amp fuse in a 20-amp circuit, so I know it can handle that 10-amp if need be. So these are the wires for the AEM. The white wire is an output 5-volt. The blue wire is a serial output. Most likely if you're wanting to connect it up to like HP tuners or something to read your AFR in HP tuners, your RS-232. And then of course this is going to get to the switch 12-volt, and there's ground. And so that's what I'm going to do, besides trying to find how in the world I am going to run that outside the car. I think I probably should have run it through the firewall when it was disconnected from the gauge up here. It would have been a lot smaller, but well, I have to figure that out now. So this might sound strange to some of you. To others, maybe you'll know where I'm coming from. But I needed to make a ground. So the red obviously is going to go to the switch 12-volt. The ground needs to go to ground along with, I think I'm going to have a ground from another one of them too. Anyway, I've seen guys take and they'll pinch this underneath this bolt, or I don't know, that's just not me. I don't like doing that. So what I did, there's actually a stud here. It's actually meant for a clip that is grounded. That's what that is for. That is for a clip, a wired clip to go onto to make a ground. So I actually soldered it on there. I ohmed it out with my ohm meter. I beeped it, so I know for a fact it is ground. And I'm going to connect those two. And that way I've got a good solid ground. I'm not sticking it under a bolt. I don't want to loosen that anyway. It's what holds the dash in there. I know, it would be fine, but I just don't like the idea of pinching wires under bolts. It's just hokey. So that's how I'm making ground, and I'll come back in a little bit. Okay, so of course I got rid of this thing. right into the trash bin and soldered that right on for the gauge. I removed that and made it a little easier. Shrink wrapped it, soldered the joint, same with the ground, and it works. So now we have to just find a way to get the wideband cable through the firewall. That'll be fun. Alright, so you see the red battery cable going in the firewall back there? Yeah. So right above that, there's a hole with a plug in it. And if you reach your hand back there, you can push that plug out and run your cable for your wideband through it. Let's see if I can get you in there where I can see it. I don't know. Let's see, where are we? Okay, there's the cable. And it's behind that harness there. There it is right there. You can see the hole right behind that split loom. That's the hole that you can run your wideband sensor harness through. My suggestion is to run it first, the small end that goes into the back of the gauge, feed it from the firewall into the cab. Don't do like I do, otherwise you'll be taking it all apart. So anyway, we'll run that through there and hook it all up. All right, well, the wiring is tucked away. Got everything in its place. Zip tied to keep it tight. That one, I just ran most of it back there and ran it up through the hole. As you can see, it's going right there. It just goes through right through the hole in the firewall. And you just use a piece of wire to help lead yourself out or in, whichever way you run it. Anyway, I'm going to put the side back on this, and we'll be good here. Alright, well, looks like both gauges are working. Of course, the OBD2 gets its power from the OBD port, so it'll auto shut off here any second. So, buttoned it up, everything's nice and tight. Yeah, I think it'll work out good. Well, something I forgot to mention, when you run that wire through the firewall, of course there's a hole there from the engine bay into the cab, so you'll want to seal that up. As funny as it may sound, I thought it was a bunch of baloney. I'm actually using a piece of Flex Seal. It's waterproof, super tacky, very sticky, and it'll keep the exhaust fumes from creeping through. I am not sealing any screen doors in submarines or screen door boats or anything like that, but the stuff does have its purpose, so I'm going to use some of that, and then I'll find a way to get that down to my bung where my O2 sensor is going to go. So here's the wideband. So I took off the off-road pipes, and because I want to just do this myself, I don't want to take the car to a shop. I'm going to try it this way. I don't know how the bulge is going to affect the wideband. I don't think it will. So the gases will be coming this way from the header, and they'll kind of spread out, but I'm hoping as they come back together, that sensor will get a nice whiff of it. And I plan on installing it at about an angle like that. Pretty much as much rake as I can. So, and then this one here, that's also a bung. It's a little bit different. It's got a curve on it. And I'm going to have them weld that too. And I'm going to plug that one. So if I ever go to my tuner again, which I know I will, he'll have a port. You won't have to take it off the tailpipe, because the tailpipe isn't the best way to measure it. There's a little bit of a delay between what happens in the combustion chamber and what is getting read by that sensor. You know, so I don't know how much that affected his tuning, but I hear it affects it. I don't know. Anyway, we'll get that done tomorrow, and when that's all welded up, we'll put them on the car and see how the gauge works. What are you doing? Alright, so we got the gauges going. I'm not sure about the AEM gauge. It's just kind of weird. Likes to bounce around. I guess that's normal for that gauge from what I see. So this is pretty cool. Rail pressures. Right, that's how I have it set up right now. So, came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. You can see them from outside. And yeah, so that's that for that. I got the wideband hooked up. And yeah, that means low oil pressure. So for some reason, if my oil pressure drops below 20 PSI, those lights will come on. Or if my RPMs are 5,900, it'll tell me to shift. So by the time I get around to actually shifting, I'll be past 5,900. So I figured I would set it a little low. So, okay, everybody. Well, thanks for watching, and appreciate you guys coming around. Bentley appreciates it. And we'll talk to you soon.